I'm Lauren Coleman with a check of the day's top stories. We are under a weather impact alert day in anticipation of the snow and potential slick spots this morning. Airports are keeping a close eye on conditions in case they need to cancel or delay any flights. So far, most flights are on schedule out of PTI this morning with the exception of one. Well, it's a different story in Raleigh, though there were at least 60 flights to and from RDU were canceled as of last night. Most of those flights are to and from places further north like Washington, D.C. and New York. Charlotte Douglas has just 10 cancellations in and out this morning. We'll have extended comprehensive coverage throughout the storm starting in just a few minutes. You can find us on WFMY Plus throughout the morning for more live coverage that will get you started here at 8. You can download WFMY Plus for free, then watch on your TV. Here's Ed Matthews with a check of the forecast, keeping an eye when the snowfall is coming.
Oh, absolutely. Watching our winter radar very closely as we continue to see snow move into the mountains and foothills and soon to work into the Triad. Now, a lot of this is drying up or evaporating before it reaches the ground, but I think pretty soon over the foothills we'll start to see some light snow reach the ground. If you do, jump on Facebook and send me a message on my page and let me know that it's snowing in your backyard. Temperature is already at or even below freezing, so any amount of snow that we get will cause some very dangerous travel conditions. We're still looking at 1 to 2 inches. Models are trending drier, so in some areas we could see less than that. We'll keep you posted. Once this moves on out, a very quiet and dry weather pattern with a warm up through the weekend. And we're watching radar as snow is working into our part of the Piedmont, but so far I haven't gotten any reports on Facebook that any is reaching the ground. This is moving into a very dry atmosphere, but it won't be long. Snow will be working into the Piedmont.
All right, we are watching conditions as they start to change. We are now in the 8 o'clock hour as you are joining us live here on WFMY Plus. This winter storm in effect as North Carolina remains under a state of emergency with all resources activated to respond as needed to whatever this system brings. This morning, Triad roads are prepared, many of them already brined ahead of the winter storm. We go live with current road conditions in just a moment. Thanks so much for joining us. I am Megan Malaris. Again, you are watching this as a special live update on weather on WFMY Plus, our free streaming platform. It's Wednesday morning, February 19th, and we have team coverage on this snowstorm this morning. Giselle Thomas is live in Greensboro with the latest on road conditions. We'll talk to her in just a few minutes. But first, we hear from our weather team, Ed Matthews and Christian Morgan, with the latest winter weather forecast. Is the timing still 8 to 11?
Yeah, Christian, I think it is, just based on what we're seeing on radar. Christian and I, of course, have been watching radar very closely through the morning. Please jump on my Facebook page and let me know if it starts snowing in your backyard. I think initially it will be over our western areas, the mountains and the foothills. Already snowing in the mountains, but I think eventually it'll soon start to reach the ground in the foothills, and then later on this morning right here in the immediate Triad. So jump on and let me know if you start to see some snowflakes in our area. Of course, we have the weather impact alert in effect for today through midday tomorrow, off and on snow at times. Looking at about 1 to 2 inches of snow based on what we're looking at now. However, some of the models are really kind of trending drier, so we could have lesser amounts, and also thunderstorms developing along the Gulf Coast could kind of interrupt some of that moisture inflow. But whatever we get, a half of an inch or 2 inches, the roads are going to get slick. So if you have to drive, you have to go somewhere in your car, be extra careful. Those are the storms that I'm talking about to our south, kind of robbing the inflow of the moisture into the system, but the light snow continues to advance into the area. These storms are not headed our way, so this heavy rain that would potentially be snow is not moving our way. These elements are tracking to the east, but they will have an impact on moisture inflow. And you can see the snow continues to move into the region, but into a very dry atmosphere. So over the next several hours, we'll start to see some snowflakes fly. I think initially with the precipitation moving into our western areas first, wouldn't be surprised. Pretty soon, we're going to start to hear from some of our viewers out over the foothills that snow is reaching the ground. Look at this, ripe for snow to accumulate on the ground, and especially the highways. Many areas are into the upper 20s, other areas at or even a couple of degrees below freezing. So once the snow moves in, we're going to cool the atmosphere with evaporative cooling a little bit more. And I think for the most part throughout the day, temperatures will hover into the upper 20s to right around 30 degrees. So once the precipitation starts, it's not going to take very long for that snow to accumulate on the highways. So be extra careful if you have to go out. If you don't have to go out, just stay with us here and we'll keep you updated. Once this system gets out by midday tomorrow, smooth sailing through the weekend, we'll actually see a pretty nice warm up by early next week, mid-50s on Monday, and we could get pretty close to 60 on Tuesday.
I appreciate you, Ed. 8:04 right now as you join us on WFMY Plus. And Ed was just talking about what we're seeing now, where some of that snow could be falling in the mountains. Let me show you one of our live cameras right now in Asheville, North Carolina. Nice big snowflakes falling there. And you notice it hasn't been snowing there very long, but it's not going to take long for this to start to accumulate or for it to start to stick on the roads. You can see some of that snow already sticking on some of the buildings there in Asheville, covering the roofs there. Roads still in pretty good shape, but they will go downhill fast up that way as well. Let's come a little closer back to home and show you what was downtown Boone, but doesn't want to show up right now. Sometimes these cameras go in and out, but we'll leave it there just a second so it can come back. Notice where the temperature is in Boone right now at 27 degrees. There is snow falling right now in the North Carolina high country. So how much can we expect for our area? And we've been painting a very broad paintbrush here with snow totals over the last couple of days, simply because this is a really hard forecast to nail down, and it could go either way. We could be on the very light side or we could be on the heavier side. A lot of the big reason for that is the dry air that we have in place. place. It was just talking about that, how this system coming from the west has an opportunity to dry out before it reaches us. It's not really tapping into any moisture source until it gets back off the coast later this evening, and then gives the eastern half of our state a better opportunity at snow. So I still think around 1 to 2 inches is a very reasonable amount and a reasonable forecast for our area. You'll notice back to the west, areas over the foothills and down to the south and west, these folks really aren't going to get as much snow out of the system, anywhere from a trace to maybe an inch up over the foothills. For us, that 1 to 2 inch range seems likely and seems pretty reasonable. Off to our north and east, though, again, those are the folks that have the better opportunity at higher snow totals. I'm thinking about places like Roanoke Rapids, up into Virginia, even Danville. Could get a little more than we do here in the immediate Piedmont Triad. They could be somewhere on the order of about 2 to maybe 4 inches of snow. But it's all how the system is playing out. Once it gets back out over the water, it's able to throw some extra moisture into it and give folks to the north and east a better opportunity at higher snow. So 1 to 2 inches, again, still seems reasonable for most of the Piedmont Triad. That's Greensboro, that's Asheboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, Lexington, Burlington, and anywhere in between. Folks that are expecting about 1 to 2 inches. Now let's talk about the ice, and it's really the lack thereof with this system. Thankfully, most of our systems that come through North Carolina, we've always got some of that sleet, some of that icy mess that's working in. That's not so much the case this time around. For the immediate Triad, not really worried about icing, maybe a glaze down to the south of I-40, but further south of Highway 64 down to the Sandhills of North Carolina, those are the folks that are going to have the better opportunity at a little bit of ice with this system. So mostly a snow event, 1 to 2 inches is our forecast. Could be a little less than that with that dry air. The ice is mainly to our south, but the big impact for us is going to be slick travel that happens pretty much immediately when the snow starts to fall. I'm not much worried about power concerns across our area, but we do have those News 2 weather impact alerts in effect for today and through midday tomorrow for slick roads. Now the sun comes out tomorrow afternoon. Some of that should get a little bit better and melt away, but there could still be some slick spots that remain into Friday morning. So take it slow on the roads.
All right, thank you. Christian and Ed will be tracking this system as it gets closer. This morning, roads across the area are already prepared for snow. We know crews have been working hard these last 48 hours. WFMY News crew Giselle Thomas is live in Greensboro with the latest on road conditions as things get ready to change. Giselle?
Yeah, so I'm here on I-40 West, right in between that A85 South stretch, heading on the way to Charlotte. Now, the roads are actually pretty busy right now. Now, transportation officials are asking for people, once that storm comes in, to make sure that you are staying off the roads. And as we're panning to show you those roads, if you're able to take a look, there are literally lines that you can see going through that have that brine. Now, trucks were actually starting to do this since early this week. Safety transportation officials saying that they want to make sure that they are extra prepared with pre-treating these roads as we are expecting this storm to come. Now, right now, it's been about an hour or so since they've started and kicked off their 24/7 operations, and that means that all hands are on deck. Now, I was able to speak to some engineers who are actually with Division 7 and 9, which cover Guilford County, going all the way up to the Virginia border, and they're saying that they are ready and prepared for this snow to come, and they want to make sure that you and your families are safe. Also, those emergency personnel that would possibly be on the roads once we see that winter storm to be able to kick through. Now, it all started with the pre-treatment of major roadways and highways, and that was at the beginning of this week again. Now, crews were bringing in, they put brine on state-owned roads, and then they also went through every single interstate system. So any highway that had an I in front of it, you can bet on it that there was brine being put on those roads. Now, Division 7 consists of Guilford, Rockingham, Caswell, Alamance, and Orange counties. Now, Derek Dixon is the maintenance engineer who says that right now the team is on standby. At least they're on standby during that 24/7 on-call time period. And when the snow starts to come down, they're going to be ready to go, whether that's with plows or any kind of materials that they need to make sure that they're able to remove and make sure that the roads are safe out here. And he says once the snow actually sticks to the roads is when DOT is going to start making their moves.
It definitely helps us out. It gives us a lead time to where we can get our salt trucks prepared and be able to handle any storm that comes. Every event is all hands on deck. This event is like any other event. It's The preparation is always the same. It's just the amounts that become different.
Now again, we are in that 24/7 operations period. That means you should be able to see some trucks, whether it's brine trucks, whether it's snow plows. DOT transportation vehicles are expected to be spread out all throughout the different entrances and ways on state roads. In the time we've been out here, I actually was able to see several trucks. They were driving to where they are to be stationed all across, making sure that they are on standby and ready to help and kick in whenever needed. But at this point, it's really just a waiting game. Once the brine here and the DOT has done their job in preparing for this weather event that's to come, the next step is seeing what kind of weather comes down and then also what happens after what the weather event passes to then determine how the roads will be. Live in Greensboro, Giselle Thomas, WFMY News 2.
All right, thanks, Giselle. A lot of great information there, and we thank our crews for working hard to get these roads ready. This is a live look at Winston-Salem. Looks very similar to Greensboro. Not much happening at the moment, but you see those gray skies, and you can feel it as soon as you walk outside. Something is coming soon. I just spoke with Christian Morgan, who verifies that Winston-Salem will get something similar to whatever Greensboro gets. Not much of a difference there as far as expected precipitation. We heard from Winston-Salem road crews in the last couple of days who said that after the snow starts falling, they're going to switch from brine to salt. So there are preparations underway to be ready to clear those roads if anything starts to stick. A reminder, be careful with travel today, especially if you have afternoon appointments. Even with salt on the ground, the roads will be slick because of those below freezing temperatures. We know several schools are on delays or closed or remote today, and right now we're seeing some airport adjustments. These are the delays and cancellations out of PTI Airport. A few flights to and from Charlotte have also been canceled, as well as some heading north to Philadelphia and Washington. Most flights, though, are still on schedule right now. Hopefully, we'll be able to take off this morning at least. Raleigh-Durham International Airport is also seeing some delays and cancellations. Right now, there are 65 flights to and from RDU canceled, with 2 delayed, according to the flight tracking site FlightAware. If you plan on flying today, expect to see more delays and cancellations, so check the flight status before you head out. A Triad Community Center is extending its hours today for cold weather. The Interactive Resource Center, the IRC, is adding hours to help serve the community who might not have a warm place to go today or maybe loses power. The IRC says it'll stay open later until 6 p.m. and will go back to normal hours tomorrow. State leaders are ready for today's impact. They've activated 180 National Guard members. Some are stationed in Greensboro and Surrey County. More than 1,500 DOT workers pre-treated the roads. Nearly 600 trucks and 130,000 tons of salt are ready to go going forward. Local DOT has more than 150 trucks. Just to give you some perspective of our resources that seem to be ample. The roads are salted, as we said, but how does salt actually help you stay safe on the road? Here's Christian Morgan with your Weather IQ.
When it comes to winter, we're used to seeing those salt and brine trucks all over the roads, even with the slightest mention of winter weather. You know, it's just part of our normal winter routine around here. But have you ever wondered how it actually works and why they spread it all over the roads? Let's raise that Weather IQ. All right, first let's start with a basic science lesson. When water is in its liquid state, those water molecules are pretty loosely packed. However, when water reaches its freezing point of 32 degrees or below, those molecules become more tightly packed, causing them to freeze. And as you know, this can cause big problems on the roads. Icy and slushy roads reduce the traction between your car tires and the road surface. And as you know, if your car hits ice or snow, your car can lose control, causing you to skid or swerve. So we have to find a way to pull those tightly packed molecules apart. And to do that, road crews spread a brine or salt solution on the road. But contrary to popular belief, that solution doesn't actually melt the snow or the ice. What it's actually doing is lowering the freezing point of water. So what these salt molecules are actually doing is sort of getting in the way of the water molecules that are trying to bond and pack up. And that works to keep it from freezing. So let's recap. The freezing point of water, of course, is actually 32 degrees. But you add that sodium chloride solution and it brings the freezing point down to 15 degrees. But that only works to a certain point. If the temperature drops below 15, salt essentially becomes ineffective until the temperature rises back up above it. With your Weather IQ, I'm meteorologist Christian Morgan.
Well, I learned something today. That's pretty interesting. All right, if you need to get out on the roads, let's take another look at our forecast and the timing of this. Has much changed since yesterday? Is there any possibility that we could get just a trace or nothing at all?
Well, that's still kind of been the thinking here. This has really been a tough forecast to nail down, Megan, and part of the reason for that is the dry air. You know, think about, especially if you've lived here a long time, typically our big storms come from the south, right? How often have you heard your parents, maybe grandparents even say that if you want a big one around here, the storm's got to come from the south. And really that's the same scenario again, but why is that? It's because it has a moisture source close to the Gulf. This time around, dry air is a big concern for us because it's not coming out of the south. It's coming mainly from the west. So whatever runs out by the time it reaches us is what we end up with before it can get back off the coast and replenish. I'll explain that coming up. Right now, take a live look in downtown Boone. Got our camera back there. Hasn't been snowing very long, but you can already see the roofs, the buildings there covered right along King Street here in downtown Boone. It'll continue to snow down, snow up there for the next little while. Here's what it looked like on radar. Of course, plenty of rain down to our south across and along the Gulf Coast. Snow still out over the Tennessee mountains and now moving into western North Carolina as well. It's actually snowing here up above our heads, but our air is dry and it hasn't made it down to the ground yet. It'll take a little while for us to moisten up and for that to reach us. Meanwhile, it's coming to an end back out over Tennessee. And you can see the trend here over the last several hours, how it really is kind of drying up and it's losing a lot of its steam. That's the concern for us with potentially not getting much at all. The other factor here is notice all this rain and ongoing storms down along the Gulf Coast. That could be robbing us of some of the moisture that could be being sent up into the northern part of the system to give us snow. So there's several factors that are working against us here from having a nice decent snowfall. Snow showers, though, will start and they'll be scattered, mostly light as we go throughout the afternoon into the early evening. Then I expect it shuts off for us. Once the system gets back out over water over the Atlantic, it's able to bring in more moisture. And so that's why these folks in eastern North Carolina, northeastern North Carolina are likely going to have a better opportunity for more snow than we do and even our mountains do this time around. Doesn't always work out that way. Here's what it looks like, though, on Futurecast. We move into the afternoon. Scattered snow showers are going to be with us. Notice the temperatures are going to be hovering in the upper 20s to near 30. So we'll be staying below freezing. Even if it doesn't snow a lot, it's going to make the roads pretty slick and very quickly. That'll continue even after snow shuts off. Again, look, our temperatures will hover and drop into the low and mid 20s overnight. So anything that's on the roads is going to remain there until early tomorrow morning. There could be another quick little burst of snow Thursday morning to finish things off. And if it's strong enough, it may put down a quick coating additional on top of whatever we have. Moving into tomorrow afternoon, though, our sunshine is back. It'll be windy, but we'll start to melt some of that snow off. Again, be mindful. Slick spots are still going to remain into Friday morning where there's shade. 1 to 2 inches seems reasonable for our area. A little more than that to the north and east. Northeast North Carolina, going to see more snow than us here in the Piedmont and more snow than western North Carolina. Not super concerned, though, about icing. As you'll see, just a glaze possible south of 40. The better opportunity for ice is mainly south of Highway 64. So mostly a snow event for us. The ice is to the south. Our main impact is going to be slick roads, potentially into tomorrow morning. A couple of slick spots that linger into Friday too, and I'm not really expecting much in the way of power outages. There's your 7-day forecast, clearing things out tomorrow evening. The weekend is in good shape. Chilly Saturday and Sunday, but we get back to 60 next week.
All right, let's take a live look at snow in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Wow, this is a gorgeous view outside of a resort there. Snow-covered buildings and walkways. Tennessee getting a lot of winter weather, as are we. They actually got this a little bit earlier than we did, in line with that same system that hit Kentucky. But this is beautiful, not far from Dollywood over there in Pigeon Forge. So we'll keep you updated as we track this system heading our way. We'll have continued coverage on WFMY Plus all day in between our regularly scheduled newscast on air. We thank you so much for joining us.
Have you ever noticed that when you make a snowman, that Frosty sticks around a little longer than the other snow in your yard? Well, WFMY News 2's meteorologist Christian Morgan makes us a little smarter with why in tonight's Weather IQ.
Well, it's winter and there's still time for us to get more of the fluffy white stuff, even though we usually don't get a lot. Just the joy of making a snowman is something I've always enjoyed. But have you ever noticed, even after all the other snow is gone and melted away, there's still Frosty hanging around just a little bit longer? Why is that? Maybe it's the magic, or maybe it's science that keeps him around a little while longer. Let's raise your weather IQ. All right, forget about Frosty for a minute. Let's talk about that nasty piled up snow. You know, it's on the sidewalks, piled up in the mall parking lots, and it seems like it just won't go away. Even after everything else is melted and dried up, there's still that dirty, gross, plowed up pile of snow that takes forever to melt. Packed snow melts a lot slower because it's more dense than loose or fresh snow. When it's packed like a snowball, individual snowflakes are compressed together. This reduces the amount of air circulation between them and slows the melting process. Also, there's less surface area of snow that gets exposed to the surrounding air of the environment. That means the amount of heat transfer is lower, so it stays colder longer. And take a look here at just a regular old snowflake and how much space there is between each particle of that snowflake. All the air in the outside environment moves in and around all those pieces and of course melts it a lot quicker. When snow gets packed together, several snowflakes all tightly packed in a nice and neat snowball, much like we make when we make a snowman, less snow is being impacted by the air surrounding it. So it melts a lot slower and it stays colder longer. So snowmen, of course, have a larger mass than the surrounding fresh snow on the ground. They take more time to warm up and more time to cool down too. That means the bigger the snowman, the longer that it stays cold. So back to the original story, Frosty the Snowman. The kiddos so worried that he was going to melt away when truly they may have had more time with their magical snowy friend than they ever realized. With your Weather IQ, I'm meteorologist Christian Morgan.
I'm Megan Malaris, and it is a WFMY News 2 Weather Impact Alert Day. Because of expected snow, within the next couple of hours, the Interactive Resource Center is extending its hours to help serve the community during cold weather. The IRC says it'll stay open until 6 tonight. It plans, as of now, to return to normal hours tomorrow. With the winter weather, we'll be seeing a fair amount of closures over the next few days, but for now, the Tanger Center says the show must go on. MJ the Musical kicked off in Greensboro last night. The Performing Arts Center says the forecast will not impact shows today or later this week. The same is not true for the state wrestling championships. Tens of thousands of people were set to come to Greensboro for the event starting tomorrow, but it will now begin on Saturday and go into Sunday because of the storm. Let's look at the timing of this, Ed. When could we start seeing some snowflakes fall?
Well, I think essentially any time out over the foothills and over the next few hours, I think before noon for sure, we'll start to see a few light snowflakes fly here in the Piedmont. So far, I haven't heard from anybody about snow falling in their backyard, but if you see some flakes, go on my Facebook page and let me know about it, and I'll share it with our viewers. Once it starts to snow, the roads are going to get slick rather quickly. Look at this. Some areas into the upper 20s, other areas, most areas really, below freezing by a few degrees. So it won't take long once the snow moves in that we're going to see some very, very slick conditions and icy conditions on the highway. Off and on light snow right on through tonight, maybe a burst early tomorrow. After that, smooth sailing right on through the weekend. And good morning, Piedmont Triad. We are in the middle of a weather impact alert day. That alert will go until tomorrow morning as light snow will soon be working into the Piedmont Triad, and we could start to see some flakes in the foothills anytime. Roads will quickly become slick as temperatures are at or in many locations below the freezing mark. So if you have to travel, make sure you're extra careful.
Alrighty, let's take a look at our skies. This is out in Winston-Salem. Kind of dry now, but it's going to be a different story in just a couple of hours. Thanks for joining us. You are watching WFMY News 2 Plus, our free streaming platform. It is now 8:30 on this Wednesday morning, February 19th. We have full team coverage on the snowstorm this morning. Our Giselle Thomas is live in Greensboro with the latest on road conditions. We'll check in with her in just a few minutes. But first, let's go to our weather team, meteorologist Ed Matthews and Christian Morgan with the latest winter weather forecast. We're already starting to see some snow in other parts of North Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, Christian has been showing some weather cameras from Boone and Asheville, and the snow is coming down in those areas. We got to saturate the atmosphere. The air is very dry, so although it looks impressive on the radar, it's snowing up there, but it's drying up before it reaches the ground. Now, the foothills, you'll likely see some snow start at any time. I'm waiting for somebody to get in touch with me on Facebook and let me know that you got some snowflakes in your backyard. If you do see some, just let me know and I will share it with our viewers. Now, we're watching a line of some pretty heavy rain along the Gulf Coast, and we've been talking about that may interrupt the moisture inflow to our area of low pressure. Now, we're still going for the possibility of 1 to 2 inches of snow. Many of our forecast models trending a little bit drier, so we could have lesser amounts, but I wouldn't focus so much on the amounts of snow. I would focus on the fact that anything that falls, whether it be half of an inch, an inch, or 2 inches, will cause some travel problems with very slick roads. This is not headed our way. If it were, we'd be in major trouble. It is tracking off to the east, but again, may interrupt some of that moisture inflow. See how impressive our winter radar looks? You say, well, wait a minute, nothing's fallen in the Triad yet. Again, we've got a pretty dry atmosphere over our part of the Piedmont, and once we do saturate the column, we'll start to see snowflakes fly here in the Piedmont. Again, let me know anywhere you're watching us from. Let me know if you do happen to see some light snow. Temperatures are critical. Actually, they're ripe for snow to stick just about on any surface this morning, whether it be the grass or, more dangerously, the highways. Look at this. Some of our northern areas are in the upper 20s already, but most areas are a few degrees below freezing. And when the precipitation, the snow moves in, we're going to cool the atmosphere with evaporative cooling. And I think many of our other communities will slip into the upper 20s to near 30. And we're going to pretty much hang there all day as the snow, although light, will move through the area, and it'll be kind of off and on light snow for the afternoon and overnight tonight as well. And then maybe another little burst of snow coming through early tomorrow morning. We'll track that on the Good Morning Show. And thereafter, we may actually see a little afternoon sunshine coming up on Thursday. 1 to 2 inches of snow. It should end by sometime Thursday morning, mainly a snow event, and that is good news for us because we don't have to worry so much about icing. Again, the weather impact alert in effect through midday on Thursday.
All right, thanks, Ed. 8:34 right now on this Wednesday. Ed, I was just looking at some things now. Of course, I've been watching our weather cameras in Asheville and up in Boone. It's snowing pretty good across the mountains, but one thing that we've been talking about really is the dry air concern. And you can see it, especially down in South Carolina, you can see it starting to dry up a little bit over the upstate. So that's why we've been concerned about erring on the side of the lower ends of our snowfall forecast and snowfall amounts. Take a look right now in Asheville. Some light flakes coming down. Hasn't been snowing very long, but the roofs, the buildings, of course, there are covered. Boone, I don't know why it does this every time I try to show it to you. It works when I'm off the air, then I come back on the air and it goes out. You know, Boone has a mind of its own. Let's talk about snowfall totals. Generally thinking around 1 to 2 inches is still reasonable for the Piedmont Triad. You'll notice much lower snow totals over the foothills and areas down to the southwest. The higher snow totals this time around with this system, much like the last one, are actually going to be to our east. And northeastern North Carolina is going to have the better opportunity. Folks like Danville up to Roanoke Rapids, those are going to be the areas that likely see more in the way of snowfall. Why is that? Well, once our system moves back out over water over the Atlantic later today, it's able to kick some moisture back in, wrap it around, and throw it over into the eastern part of the state. So that's why those folks have a better chance of seeing higher snow totals than we do. But again, I still think 1 to 2 inches seems reasonable for our area. if it doesn't dry up before it really ever reaches us. Ice, not much of a concern with this system. A light glaze is possible mainly south of I-40, but the bigger icing concern with this system is mostly going to be south of Highway 64 and down into the sandhills of North Carolina. So across the Piedmont, really not much concern in the way of ice. Mainly a snow event for us. 1 to 2 inches is our forecast. Could be a little lower than that, especially with the dry air, but there's also the chance it could be higher than that, although I probably wouldn't bank on that. It's probably going to be in the 1 to 2 inch range or maybe a little lower. Again, not much concern about ice. Slick roads are really going to be our main impact here because temperatures are going to be staying at or below freezing all the way for the rest of the day into tomorrow morning as well. Not much of an ice concern, so I also don't see much in the way of a power concern with this system as well. All right, we've said this a lot, the boom or bust potential. What is that and why is it so high? What that really means is our forecast is 1 to 2 inches, but dry air has been such a big question. How much, when, how much snow drops, how much doesn't drop before the atmosphere moistens up. All of those are factors that play into the potential for how much snow we could see stack up across the Piedmont. So I still think 1 to 2 inches is a good forecast for us, but that bust potential is pretty high. It means we could get nothing to maybe a quick coating and that be about it. But the boom potential means if we really hold on to some extra moisture or some moisture gets thrown back our way from the coast, we could see upwards of maybe 2 to 4 inches in most of the Piedmont Triad. Not forecasting that. I'm also not forecasting the bust. Again, I think 1 to 2 inches is a good forecast for now. We'll see how that plays out. So here's the plan for the rest of your Wednesday. Snow will start to fall, light, spotty at first. Then as we get into the afternoon, it's scattered snow showers. And again, most of that snow will be light. Temperatures could actually drop a little bit and hold into the upper 20s. So even if we don't get a lot of snow, anything that falls is going to start to stick. And it will make for slick travel on into tonight through tomorrow morning, maybe into Friday too. Got more details on that in just a bit.
All right, thank you, Christian and Ed. This morning, roads across the Triad are ready for snow. WFMY News 2's Giselle Thomas is live in Greensboro with the latest road conditions and NCDOT's preparations ahead of the storm. Giselle, crews are at the ready and ready to work around the clock.
Yes, and that is the best way to put it. They actually just kicked off their 24/7 operations. It's been in function now for just over an hour and 30 minutes. Now I'm here off I-40 right off that I-85 south. You can see this highway is actually pretty busy right now, but that's okay. Right now crews are saying once that winter weather kicks in is when people should be off the road. So for those who are headed to where they have to go, they're all right at this time, but in the next few hours, please make sure that you are off of the roads and only on for emergency reasons. Now, starting at the beginning of this week, crews made sure that the roads are safe for you as we're heading into that winter weather today. They actually put out lots of brine pre-treating these roads. As we were actually driving to get where we are right now, we were able to see the lines of brine that were spread out all throughout the highway. You can see the salt that's gathered on the side of the road here, just making sure that drivers are able to be safe out here this morning. Now, I was able to speak to Derek Dixon. He is actually with Division 7 that represents Guilford County going all the way up to Orange County. Now, he tells me that the plan this morning is to lay out trucks throughout various areas so crews can be ready for snowfall.
We'll have trucks stationed on specific routes ready to go, and then once it starts sticking, that's when we'll begin our salt operations. We have probably around 100 to 150 trucks across the whole division, so we are very well prepared for anything that comes.
Now, Dixon says the brine that's currently on the roads should kick in once the snow starts to stick. He says that snow falling is actually better than freezing rain, so crews can be able to move it easily. Now, over in Winston-Salem, Division 9, it actually goes from Forsyth going all the way up to Rowan County. Now, officials there tell me that they have actually nearly 300 trucks that are ready to go and on that standby. Now, they say because there are a lot of hills in that direction, they wanted to make sure that state roads where they targeted first, and also those major highways, they wanted to make sure they were able to get a head start earlier this week with the brine and pre-treatment.
Any elevated roadway is sort of catches people by surprise. Our program is to pre-treat and actively treat during the storm what we consider our bare pavement routes, interstate, US and NC routes. Those will be our focus for the duration of the event.
And again, we have started that 24/7 operations. In the time we've been here out here, I've seen several DOT trucks go by, whether it be snow plows, whether it be just extra salt trucks, just to make sure that they're spread out all throughout the county in different areas, making sure that these roads are safe. They're saying that that is their priority, just in case there's some emergency travel or anything needed. If you need to be able to see kind of whether it's how the weather is impacting those roads, NCDOT Drive is your best bet. That will allow you to see the DOT literally outlines where there's an issue, where they're working, and places that could be of concern. So it's a one-way front to get you the directions that you might need if you need to travel. Live in Greensboro, Giselle Thomas, WFMY News 2.
All right, try to stay warm out there. Giselle, snow is moving across the south today. Right now we have a live look in downtown Nashville, Music City, covered in snow this morning. You can actually see it all over the roads and the sidewalks in downtown, but traffic there looks to be moving pretty smoothly. Folks there taking it slow. You know, over the next few days, it's important that you download our News 2 weather app, because over the next couple of days, you will receive different winter weather advisories to your phone. But what is different about the weather advisories, and how should you prepare for them? Here's meteorologist Claire Fry with your Weather IQ.
Whether you're braving the cold or keeping cozy inside, it's important to know what to expect as winter storms move in. Today, I'm going to walk you through what different winter weather alerts mean, and most importantly, how to get ready for whatever Mother Nature throws our way. Let's start with a winter storm watch. This is issued when conditions are favorable for significant weather to develop within the next 18 to 36 hours, but it's not a guarantee yet. This one is like a heads up. Think of it like a weather watch party, where we're keeping a close eye on the forecast, but it's not happening yet. It is just possible. You should start preparing and monitoring the forecast for updates. Next up, we have the winter weather advisory. A winter weather advisory, this is issued when moderate winter weather is expected. This includes things like light snow, sleet, or freezing rain that could cause slippery roads and hazardous driving conditions. It's not as severe as a warning, but it's still a concern. The main idea is to be cautious. Weather could still cause travel difficulty and potentially minor damage or disruptions. Also, keeping an eye on school or work updates where delays or closings may happen. Lastly, let's talk about the winter storm warning. This is the most urgent warning that you will hear. It means severe winter weather is happening now or is imminent. It's going to impact travel, safety, and daily activities. Whether it's heavy snow, freezing rain, or a combination, this means dangerous conditions are on the way. The main idea: take action. You're going to want to avoid travel if possible, plus roads will be treacherous and conditions can change quickly. Stay indoors if you can. This is when the weather will be likely to cause disruptions to power, schools, and businesses. Make sure you have your emergency kit ready to go, and you may need extra blankets, food, and water if the power goes out. Understanding the distinctions between these alerts helps ensure you're taking the right precautions depending on the severity of the severe weather. When in doubt, check the forecast and prepare ahead. Thanks for tuning in for this week's Weather IQ. I'm meteorologist Claire Fry.
Very interesting. Learn something new. Now let's get another look at the current winter weather conditions in the Triad. Ed, how much of a factor does dry air play in all of this?
Well, it plays a pretty big factor, but we've got several elements that could lower amounts with this system. We've got the drier air that's already in place, the cold, dry air. Also, we've been talking about this system coming in from the west rather than from the Gulf of Mexico. So not a ton of moisture with the system. And also, the most recent development has been some heavy rain along the Gulf Coast. It's been kind of trapping the moisture inflow into our area that would bring us more of a significant snow. Now, we're still calling for maybe upwards of 1 to 2 inches of snow from south to north across the area, but again, those numbers may go down a little bit, especially if we see those trends continue to a drier situation. And the models are kind of jumping on that drier trend. And actually, Christian and I have been watching this very closely. Although although we haven't had reports of snow reaching the ground yet, we got to moisten up the atmosphere. It's pretty dry. But I think over the next few hours, we'll start to see at least some very light snow. But notice how we're seeing breaks in the snow. We're seeing that over Tennessee and western North Carolina. That tells meteorologists that the air is dry. So that drier air is trying to erode the moisture field that would produce snow. But nevertheless, we think we will have enough snow that we could have some real problems on the streets and highways. We're going to hover in the upper 20s and lower 30s pretty much all day. And you can see where we're at right now. And once we get some light snow to develop, we're going to cool the atmosphere. So we're going to see more of our communities dip into the upper 20s. This particular in-house model showing the light snow, kind of off and on light snow moving into this dry atmosphere, but we think the light on and off snow will continue through the day and even through the overnight period, although I think it will be rather spotty overnight. And then as the low pressure gets organized just along the Carolina coast, we could see some significant icing issues in eastern North Carolina, and one more little pocket of energy, the upper level system associated with the developing surface low, could give us a little burst of snow tomorrow morning. Not a definite, but that's something that we'll be watching. And then look at this, as we go through Thursday afternoon, we're going to start to see a little sunshine peek through. So we'll go from 1 to 2 inches of snow, but whatever amount, the roads are going to get slick, whether it be a half of an inch, or 2 inches. That is really, quite frankly, kind of irrelevant. The important thing is that we're going to see some slick roads, maybe a little bit of icing south of Highway 64, but again, not enough to produce power outages the way it looks right now. We are in the weather impact alert through midday tomorrow. The snow will taper off early tomorrow, and smooth sailing and dry weather with a little warm up, I'll say, by Sunday. Low 50s, mid 50s on Monday, and we could crack the 60-degree mark by next Tuesday.
You might be hard-pressed to find ice melt at hardware stores this morning. We've had a busier than normal winter, so how about a DIY melt using only 3 items you already have in your home? WFMY News 2's Megan Malaris verifies.
Viewer Rose shared with me an article that claims using a simple homemade de-icer of alcohol, dish soap, and water can prevent refreezing, and unlike salt, won't eat away at sidewalks or stairs. She asked me to verify if it truly works. Our sources are Dr. Kay Sandberg with the chemistry department at NC State University and the University of York's Science on the Shelves experiments. They conclude, yes, this homemade solution really works. Dish detergent molecules reduce the surface tension of the water, allowing it to spread out on a surface like a sidewalk. Alcohol has a much lower freezing point than water, preventing the water from refreezing easily. I first tested this solution in 2018 before a record-setting snowfall. It didn't stop the foot of snow from sticking to my front steps and sidewalks, so I shoveled and reapplied before the refreeze, leaving 2 steps untreated for comparison. Here's what happened.
All right, so I noticed these bricks where I did not salt or use the makeshift de-icer have iced over overnight as the temperatures drop below freezing. But if I slowly make my way down to the part where I did use the homemade de-icer, it is clear of ice. Imagine that. It worked.
Well, we are wrapped up here for now with our WFMY Plus live stream. You can stream here anytime on Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku. The Good Morning Show at 9 is up next on WFMY with the latest winter weather coverage. We'll see you soon.
Well, have you ever been snowboarding or skiing and been absolutely blinded by the light reflecting from the snow? Or even gotten sunburned from being just on the slopes? Today we're going to talk about how snow reflects sunlight and how it makes winter days so bright and so cold. Let's break it down. You know how when you step outside on a sunny winter day, it can feel extra bright? That's because snow is a fabulous reflector. The scientific term that we use for this is albedo, which basically refers to how much sunlight is reflected by a surface. Think about how in the summertime we always say to wear light-colored clothes instead of dark so we don't get as hot. A dark asphalt road, which only reflects about 10% of sunlight, most of that gets absorbed. This is the complete opposite of fresh snow with its white surface that reflects up to 80% or even 90% of the sunlight that hits it. When sunlight hits the snow, it bounces back into the atmosphere instead of being absorbed by the ground. This reflection process makes winter days feel so bright, especially with that sunlight dancing off the snow. On snowy days, even though the sun might be shining, a lot of heat is being reflected away, which prevents temperatures from warming up as much as they would on bare ground. Additionally, the snow itself often acts as an insulator, trapping cold air near the surface and contributing to even lower temperatures. Snow's ability to reflect sunlight gives winter its brightness, and that's why those sunny, snowy days can also be so blinding, and snowy days will be even colder. Remember to wear your sunglasses and wear your sunscreen this winter. Thanks for tuning into this week's Weather IQ. I'm meteorologist Claire Fry.
I'm Megan Maleras, and it is a WFMY News 2 Weather Impact Alert Day. State leaders are getting ready by activating 180 National Guard members. Some are already stationed in Greensboro and Surrey County. More than 1,500 DOT workers treated roads. Nearly 600 trucks and 130,000 tons of salt are ready to go. The local DOT office has more than 150 trucks at the ready as well. If staying home is not an option today, here are some reminders. First, always check the WFMY News 2 app for up-to-date forecast and information. Also, check road conditions on NCDOT, drivenc.gov. Then it's a good idea to pack a few supplies in your car as a just in case. Phone charger, blanket, snacks, and water. And do the proper checks on your vehicle. Battery, wipers, and other systems affected by cold weather. Tires are a big one. Let's check in with our forecast. Is anything happening right now, Ed?
So far, I haven't heard anything from our viewers, but I do invite people that happen to see a few snowflakes, let us know on my Facebook page, and of course, we'll share that information with our viewers. This snow is moving into a very, very dry atmosphere, so it's going to take a while to kind of saturate the atmosphere, but once it does, we'll start to see some very light snow develop. It will develop first out over the foothills and then eventually right here in the immediate Triad. And we're still looking at 1 to 2 inches of snow, but we got to see if the dry trend continues. That could limit accumulations. But whatever we get, the temperatures are in the 20s to near 30, so there will be ice accumulation on the streets and highways. Keep that in mind. Icy conditions right on through Friday, but we'll warm it up by early next week.